Road to Revenge is officially scheduled for release in 2025. However, the exact confirmed release date has not yet been publicly announced by the studio. The film is expected to receive a theatrical release in selected international territories before moving to digital and streaming platforms, though the final global distribution plan is still pending confirmation. The official production budget has not been disclosed, but industry estimates categorize it as a mid-budget to upper mid-budget action sequel due to its expanded scale, intense practical stunt work, large set-piece sequences, and international production value. And with those release and production details established, the film wastes no time in returning to the brutal, survival-driven tone that defined its predecessor, opening not with dialogue or exposition, but with atmosphere, landscape, and tension, immediately immersing the audience in a harsh, unforgiving environment where silence carries more weight than words. The narrative reintroduces its central warrior figure not as a traditional hero, but as a force shaped by endurance, trauma, and relentless will. And instead of relying on heavy backstory, the film communicates character through action, posture, and reaction to threat. The pacing in this opening chapter is deliberate yet charged, building pressure through stillness rather than spectacle, visually reinforced through stark cinematography that captures vast empty terrain, contrasted against sudden bursts of violence. Sound design plays a crucial role, amplifying wind, distant mechanical noise, and the raw impact of physical confrontation, grounding every movement in realism. And from the beginning, it is clear that this sequel is not interested in overcomplicating its premise, but rather intensifying it, expanding the scale of conflict while preserving the minimalist storytelling approach that made the original so distinct. The opening conflict escalates quickly, not through dramatic speeches, but through confrontation that feels inevitable. Enemies introduced not as caricatures, but as obstacles within a brutal system, and the central character responds not with emotion, but with calculated brutality, reinforcing the film's theme that survival and revenge are not separate motivations, but intertwined instincts. Action sequences in this first segment are tightly choreographed, yet raw, emphasizing practical effects, physical endurance, and close-quarters combat rather than stylized exaggeration, each encounter leaving visible consequence, reinforcing vulnerability and realism. Editing maintains spatial clarity even during chaos, allowing the audience to track cause and effect without disorientation. The environment itself becomes a character, harsh terrain shaping strategy, limiting movement, and amplifying risk. And as the narrative progresses through this first chapter, it becomes evident that the sequel raises the stakes by expanding both the battlefield and the scale of opposition, moving beyond isolated encounters into organized retaliation. Yet the protagonist remains grounded, silent, and methodical, embodying resilience rather than dominance. Dialogue remains minimal, often secondary to action, reinforcing the mythic quality of the central figure, whose motivations are communicated through persistence rather than explanation. The midpoint of this opening chapter introduces a turning point that shifts the narrative from survival to targeted revenge, a moment where conflict becomes personal rather than circumstantial, and the film handles this shift without melodrama, allowing action and consequence to define emotional weight. Visually, the cinematography widens, suggesting that the battlefield is expanding geographically and strategically, while thematically the story narrows into a focused pursuit. The pacing accelerates slightly, but never loses control, maintaining tension through restraint. The supporting antagonists are depicted with enough presence to feel formidable, but never overshadow the central force of the protagonist, reinforcing the idea that the story is less about rivalry and more about inevitability. As this first part approaches its conclusion, the film delivers a sustained action sequence that encapsulates its identity, relentless, grounded, brutal, and visually striking, while leaving room for escalation in the chapters ahead. And by the end of Part 1, the tone, stakes, and direction are firmly established, presenting a sequel that respects its roots while expanding its scale, setting the stage for a revenge narrative driven not by rage alone, but by endurance, precision, and the quiet, unstoppable will that defines its central character. The narrative intensifies immediately after the turning point established in the opening chapter, shifting from reactive brutality into deliberate pursuit. And this phase of the story deepens the revenge arc by expanding the scale of resistance while narrowing the emotional focus. The protagonist no longer simply surviving encounters, but actively dismantling a structured enemy network. Early moments in this chapter emphasize calculation over chaos, movements slower, more observant, visually reinforced through wide landscape shots that contrast isolation with the looming presence of organized opposition. The cinematography captures barren roads, abandoned outposts, and fortified checkpoints, creating a sense that every mile traveled carries escalating consequence. Sound design continues to prioritize realism, the crunch of boots, distant engines, metallic tension before gunfire, grounding each action beat in physical presence. The pacing becomes more strategic, alternating between sudden bursts of violence and stretches of quiet tracking, reinforcing the idea that this is now a hunt rather than a chase. Antagonists are shown mobilizing in greater numbers, their coordination suggesting intelligence and adaptation, but the film avoids overcomplicating their motives, focusing instead on the inevitability of confrontation. The protagonist's approach reflects ruthless efficiency, conserving energy, studying terrain, striking only when advantage is certain. Action sequences in this chapter are larger in scale, but retain the raw, grounded brutality that defines the franchise. Close quarters combat remains central, yet the environments grow more varied, shifting from open wilderness to industrial compounds and narrow interior corridors, each setting altering strategy and increasing tension. Editing maintains clarity despite expanded choreography, ensuring that every strike and counterattack registers with impact. And the emotional undercurrent becomes more defined, revenge no longer abstract, but targeted, the silence of the protagonist amplifying the weight of each action. Dialogue remains minimal, often confined to antagonists reacting in fear or disbelief, reinforcing the mythic aura surrounding the central figure. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a coordinated counterattack from the opposing force, forcing the protagonist into a rare defensive position. And this sequence is handled with relentless intensity, showcasing vulnerability without diminishing strength. Injuries are sustained, exhaustion visible, reinforcing realism, yet endurance prevails, not through invincibility, but through adaptability. Visually, the lighting becomes harsher, flames and shadows dominating key sequences, symbolizing escalation. And as the conflict spreads, collateral destruction increases, signaling that the revenge has grown beyond personal scope and into systemic dismantling. The pacing accelerates during the final stretch of this part, culminating in a high-impact confrontation that shifts momentum decisively back to the protagonist. But instead of providing resolution, it reveals that the true architect of opposition remains out of reach, setting up deeper stakes for the chapters ahead. By the end of Part 2, the film firmly establishes that this sequel is expanding both battlefield and consequence, transforming a lone survivor narrative into a relentless war of attrition, while preserving the minimalist dialogue, grounded action, and stark visual identity that define the series, leaving the audience with heightened tension and anticipation for the next escalation in this brutal, endurance-driven revenge saga. The story escalates into a wider battlefield as the consequences of the protagonist's relentless advance begin to destabilize the enemy's structure from within, transforming what once seemed like organized retaliation into fragmented desperation. Early moments in this chapter emphasize tension building on both sides, the antagonists no longer confident, but cautious, visually reinforced through tighter interior shots of command centers and fortified locations contrasted against vast exterior landscapes that still belong to the silent warrior moving through them. The cinematography sharpens its focus on contrast, cold steel and concrete against raw earth and fire, reinforcing the clash between mechanized power and primal endurance. Sound design intensifies this divide. Heavy engines, distant explosions, and metallic echoes competing with the natural ambience that follows the protagonist like an invisible force. The pacing shifts into a rhythm of preparation and impact, alternating between calculated tracking sequences and explosive engagements that feel inevitable rather than surprising. The protagonist's method evolves further, no longer merely striking and retreating, but deliberately drawing enemies into terrain that neutralizes their numerical advantage, reinforcing intelligence without verbal exposition. Action sequences in this chapter become more complex, involving layered ambushes, environmental hazards, and multi-stage confrontations that test both physical stamina and strategic foresight. Editing maintains spatial clarity even as chaos increases, ensuring that every maneuver feels earned rather than exaggerated. Injuries accumulate and fatigue becomes more visible, yet resilience remains the defining trait, reinforcing that endurance, not invulnerability, drives this narrative. The antagonists attempt psychological tactics, intimidation, displays of force, but the absence of dialogue from the protagonist renders these efforts hollow, emphasizing that revenge here is not fueled by anger, but by unwavering focus. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a dramatic siege-like sequence where the protagonist is temporarily cornered within a hostile structure, and this segment becomes a masterclass in tension, using confined space, shifting shadows, and relentless pursuit to heighten claustrophobia. Combat becomes brutally intimate, hand-to-hand clashes replacing wide-scale gunfire, and every impact carries weight. The sound of bone, metal, and breath blending into a raw symphony of survival. Visually, flames and smoke dominate the latter half of this confrontation, symbolizing both destruction and cleansing. And when the protagonist finally breaks through containment, the scale of the aftermath reveals how significantly the balance of power has shifted. Yet the story avoids premature triumph, introducing intelligence that the true mastermind behind the opposition remains protected, unreachable within the current battlefield. This revelation redirects the narrative once again from broad conflict toward focused confrontation. Pacing slows slightly in the closing moments of Part 3, allowing tension to settle into anticipation rather than exhaustion. The landscape grows darker, visually and thematically, reinforcing that the war has entered its most dangerous phase. And by the end of this chapter, the film firmly establishes that escalation will no longer be measured by numbers or explosions, but by proximity to the core of power, setting the stage for the next movement in a revenge saga defined not by fury, but by relentless, calculated, and unstoppable endurance. The narrative transitions into a darker and more concentrated phase as the battlefield narrows from scattered outposts and open terrain into strategically guarded strongholds, signaling that the protagonist is now approaching the structural core of opposition rather than its outer defenses. Early moments in this chapter emphasize preparation over pursuit, with the silent warrior observing enemy movement patterns, supply routes, and fortified compounds from a distance, visually reinforced through wide aerial landscapes, contrasted against heavily guarded industrial zones that appear rigid and controlled compared to the natural chaos that previously defined the terrain. The cinematography sharpens its visual language by contrasting cold, artificial lighting within enemy facilities against the raw, shadowed textures of the surrounding wilderness, symbolizing the clash between institutional power and primal endurance. Sound design grows more layered here. Mechanical drones, distant radio chatter, and the hum of guarded infrastructure filling the atmosphere, amplifying tension even before confrontation begins. Pacing slows intentionally to build anticipation, allowing the audience to feel the weight of infiltration rather than immediate assault. The protagonist's strategy evolves again, abandoning direct confrontation in favor of disruption, sabotage, and silent elimination, reinforcing intelligence and patience without requiring exposition. Action sequences in this chapter are precise and controlled, emphasizing stealth, sudden bursts of violence, and environmental manipulation rather than sustained firefights. Each encounter short yet brutal, reinforcing realism and efficiency. Editing maintains tight spatial awareness, allowing viewers to track positioning, cover, and risk in real time. Injuries from previous chapters remain visible, reinforcing physical cost and endurance rather than cinematic invulnerability. The antagonists respond with increasing paranoia, tightening security, deploying heavier resources, and revealing internal fractures as fear spreads through their ranks. Dialogue among enemies grows tense and fragmented, reflecting uncertainty and desperation, while the protagonist remains silent and focused, embodying inevitability rather than rage. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a high-stakes infiltration sequence inside a heavily fortified structure, and this segment becomes a showcase of controlled tension. Corridors dimly lit, alarms narrowly avoided, guards eliminated with ruthless efficiency, the soundscape dominated by breath and distant echoes. And when conflict finally erupts, it does so explosively, confined gunfire reverberating through steel walls, close quarters combat intensified by limited space, the visual palette shifting into harsh contrasts of fire and shadow, reinforcing escalation. Yet the objective is not total destruction, but access. And by the time the protagonist reaches the inner layer of this compound, a critical revelation unfolds, intelligence confirming the location of the central architect behind the opposition. This moment reframes the scale of revenge once again, shifting the narrative from dismantling structure to confronting its source. Pacing accelerates during the final stretch of this chapter, culminating in a large-scale explosion that tears through the facility not as spectacle but as consequence of calculated sabotage. Visually, the destruction feels earned rather than exaggerated, and as smoke and debris settle, the protagonist stands not victorious but redirected, the path now clear toward a final confrontation that promises greater intensity and personal stakes. By the end of Part 4, the film solidifies its escalation arc, transforming strategic warfare into an inevitable march toward the core of power, maintaining its minimalist dialogue, grounded brutality, and stark visual identity, while raising anticipation for the decisive confrontation that lies ahead. The narrative advances into its most focused phase yet as the path toward the central architect of opposition becomes clear, transforming the revenge arc from systematic dismantling into a direct march toward confrontation. Early moments in this chapter emphasize momentum regained after sabotage, the protagonist no longer scouting or testing defenses, but moving with intent sharpened by confirmation, visually reinforced through long, deliberate tracking shots across scarred landscapes and burning remnants of previous conflict, symbolizing that the battlefield has already been reshaped by endurance. Cinematography contrasts the open road ahead with distant fortified structures looming against the horizon, reinforcing proximity to the core of power. Sound design grows heavier and more atmospheric. Distant thunder, mechanical rumble, and echoing aftermath of destruction blending into a tense undercurrent that signals escalation. Pacing balances restraint and acceleration, alternating between measured advance and sudden violent interruption as enemy forces attempt desperate countermeasures to halt the inevitable approach. Action sequences expand in scale once again, now involving armored vehicles, coordinated ambushes, and environmental hazards that test both physical resilience and tactical precision. Yet the brutality remains grounded, every impact, explosion, and strike carrying weight and consequence rather than spectacle. Editing preserves spatial clarity despite increased complexity, ensuring the audience understands positioning and risk at all times. The protagonist adapts fluidly, using terrain and wreckage as weapons, reinforcing intelligence without dialogue. Injuries accumulate further, fatigue visible yet irrelevant to resolve. Antagonists grow increasingly fractured, leadership issuing commands laced with fear rather than confidence, revealing cracks in authority as the mythic presence of the silent warrior destabilizes morale. Dialogue among enemies becomes tense and urgent, underscoring desperation, while the central figure remains nearly wordless, defined by action rather than speech. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a massive set-piece confrontation at a heavily guarded checkpoint leading directly to the inner stronghold. And this sequence becomes a showcase of controlled chaos, vehicles overturning, flames consuming barriers, hand-to-hand combat erupting amid debris, the camera weaving through destruction with clarity and intensity, sound design amplifying every collision and breath, reinforcing realism. The protagonist's strategy here is both ruthless and precise, dismantling infrastructure while creating a direct path forward, signaling that subtlety has given way to inevitability. And when the dust settles, the visual reveals the final fortress in full scale, towering, fortified, and symbolically rigid, marking the last barrier between endurance and resolution. Pacing tightens as the chapter closes, tension no longer abstract but immediate, and rather than delivering premature confrontation, the film allows a brief moment of stillness, the protagonist standing before the structure, not in hesitation, but in silent acknowledgement of what remains. By the end of Part 5, the sequel firmly positions itself at the edge of its climactic arc, having expanded its action scale, intensified emotional stakes, and preserved its minimalist, brutal identity, setting the stage for the inevitable collision between relentless endurance and entrenched power that will define the next chapter of this revenge-driven saga.
Narrative tightens into its most intense phase, yet as the looming fortress that guards the central architect of opposition becomes the focal point of the story, transforming the revenge journey into a direct and unavoidable confrontation with concentrated power. Early moments in this chapter emphasize stillness before impact, the protagonist observing the structure from multiple vantage points, studying guard rotations, supply movements, and structural weaknesses, visually reinforced through wide exterior shots of towering barricades contrasted with tight interior glimpses of security corridors, surveillance rooms, and heavily armed patrol units. The cinematography amplifies scale while maintaining stark realism, cold artificial lighting inside the stronghold clashing against the natural shadows outside, symbolizing institutional dominance versus primal endurance. Sound design builds tension subtly, mechanical hums, distant alarms, boots against concrete, and the faint crackle of electricity layering into an oppressive atmosphere even before the assault begins. Pacing deliberately slows to heighten anticipation, allowing the audience to absorb the weight of what this confrontation represents. The protagonist's strategy evolves once more, blending stealth infiltration with calculated distraction, initiating minor disruptions at the perimeter to draw security outward before penetrating deeper layers of defense. Action sequences in this chapter are intricate and tightly choreographed, emphasizing silent takedowns, sudden close-quarter eruptions, and environmental manipulation, each encounter brief yet brutal, reinforcing efficiency and realism. Editing maintains spatial coherence, ensuring clarity during complex movements through corridors, stairwells, and shadowed chambers. Injuries from earlier battles continue to affect performance, reinforcing vulnerability while never diminishing resolve. Antagonists inside the fortress grow increasingly frantic as communicati on lines fracture and defenses collapse from within. Dialogue between officers reveals fear and disbelief, acknowledging the unstoppable nature of the approaching threat, while the central antagonist remains unseen but heavily guarded, reinforcing mystique and anticipation. The midpoint of this chapter erupts into a large-scale interior battle when alarms are finally triggered and stealth transitions into open confrontation, gunfire echoing violently through confined hallways, sparks and debris flying from damaged infrastructure, hand-to-hand combat becoming immediate and visceral, the camera tracking through chaos with disciplined intensity, the soundscape blending metallic clangs, breath, and impact into a relentless rhythm, and despite overwhelming opposition, the protagonist advances methodically, dismantling layers of resistance rather than engaging in reckless fury. Visually, the fortress begins to crumble from strategic sabotage, lights flickering, power systems failing, corridors engulfed in smoke and flame, symbolizing structural collapse of authority, yet the story resists delivering final confrontation prematurely, instead allowing tension to accumulate as proximity increases. Pacing accelerates in the latter half of this chapter, every step forward narrowing the distance to the core chamber where the architect awaits, and by the final moments of Part 6 the protagonist stands within the innermost perimeter, separated from the ultimate target by only a final barrier of elite guards and reinforced steel, the scene ending not with resolution but with silent acknowledgement of what remains, reinforcing inevitability and setting the stage for the climactic collision where endurance, vengeance, and power will converge in the decisive chapter ahead. The narrative explodes into its climactic confrontation as the final barrier between the protagonist and the architect of destruction collapses under relentless pressure, transforming the slow-burning siege into an immediate and violent reckoning. Early moments in this chapter emphasize proximity, the inner chamber no longer distant or symbolic but physically within reach, visually reinforced through tight framing that follows the protagonist through smoke-filled corridors lit by flickering emergency lights, creating an atmosphere thick with tension and inevitability. Sound design heightens intensity with metallic groans from failing infrastructure, distant detonations echoing through concrete walls, and the amplified rhythm of breath and impact that drives the momentum forward. Pacing accelerates sharply yet remains controlled, ensuring clarity in chaos as the protagonist breaches the final defensive ring of elite guards. Action sequences here are relentless and intimate, emphasizing close quarters combat, improvised weapons, and the brutal efficiency that has defined the journey from the beginning. Choreography avoids excess and instead prioritizes weight and consequence, every strike landing with finality, every injury visible and cumulative. Editing maintains spatial precision despite rapid movement, allowing the audience to understand the geography of the chamber and the narrowing distance to confrontation. Antagonists respond with desperation rather than strategy, their confidence long replaced by panic, reinforcing the mythic inevitability of the central figure's advance. Dialogue remains sparse but charged among the defenders, commands barked in urgency, fear cutting through authority, while the protagonist remains nearly silent, embodying endurance rather than rage. The midpoint of this chapter delivers the long-awaited confrontation with the architect of opposition, staged not as a spectacle of grand speeches but as a collision of ideology and inevitability. The antagonist attempts to assert control through rhetoric and psychological manipulation, but the absence of response from the protagonist renders such tactics hollow, reinforcing that this narrative has always been about action over words. The ensuing fight sequence is raw and grounded, avoiding stylized exaggeration in favor of physical struggle that reflects exhaustion, accumulated wounds, and sheer determination. Visually, the chamber becomes a crucible of fire and shadow as structural sabotage from earlier sequences begins to destabilize the entire facility, debris falling, lights failing, smoke thickening, symbolizing the collapse of power structures under sustained resistance. The soundscape intensifies with cracking beams and collapsing steel blending into the rhythm of combat, and when the decisive blow is finally delivered it feels inevitable rather than triumphant, not celebrated but accepted as the logical conclusion of endurance. Yet the film refuses immediate resolution, forcing the protagonist to navigate the collapsing fortress in a final survival sequence that tests the last reserves of strength. Pacing remains urgent but clear, maintaining coherence as corridors crumble and exits close, the environment itself becoming the final adversary, and as the protagonist emerges from destruction into open air, the visual shifts dramatically, silence replacing chaos, wide landscape framing a solitary figure standing against the aftermath of annihilation, the emotional weight settling not as victory but as completion. By the end of Part 7, the sequel fulfills its revenge arc without abandoning its minimalist and grounded identity, presenting a climax defined by inevitability, endurance, and consequence rather than spectacle, leaving the story poised for its final reflection in the chapter ahead where survival will once again redefine meaning beyond destruction. The narrative shifts into its final reflective phase after the destruction of the fortress, transforming explosive climax into quiet aftermath, and this chapter explores what remains when vengeance has been fulfilled but endurance continues. Early moments emphasize silence over spectacle, the protagonist emerging from smoke and ruin into an open landscape that feels both vast and indifferent, visually reinforced through wide cinematic frames that contrast the collapsed structure behind with untouched wilderness ahead, symbolizing that power structures fall but the world itself remains unchanged. Sound design retreats from chaos to minimal natural ambience, wind moving across scorched terrain, distant echoes fading into stillness, grounding the emotional weight in realism rather than triumph. Pacing slows deliberately, allowing the audience to absorb consequence rather than celebrate victory. The protagonist's movements are measured, exhaustion finally visible without the need to conceal it, injuries accumulated throughout the journey acknowledged in posture and pace, yet resolve remains intact, not driven by anger but by survival instinct that has become identity. Supporting characters are absent or distant in this phase, reinforcing solitude as both burden and freedom. Action sequences do not end in explosive form but instead appear in brief survival moments, navigating unstable debris, avoiding residual threats, extinguishing flames, reinforcing that destruction leaves lingering danger. Editing favors longer takes and restrained cuts, emphasizing duration and realism over tension. The emotional tone deepens here, as the absence of opposition creates space for contemplation without dialogue. The protagonist does not reflect through words but through continued movement, reclaiming tools, securing supplies, ensuring continuation, reinforcing that survival does not end with revenge. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle shift as distant remnants of the defeated system attempt a final futile retaliation, a small ambush carried out not by command but by fragmented loyalty, and this sequence, though brief, reaffirms that the cycle of violence rarely concludes cleanly. The combat is swift and decisive, devoid of spectacle, emphasizing inevitability rather than escalation. After which silence returns more complete than before, visually the sky clears, smoke dissipates, and light softens, creating a tonal transition from war to endurance. The soundtrack remains nearly absent, allowing natural sound to dominate and affirm permanence. Pacing continues at a steady, unhurried rhythm, and as the chapter approaches its conclusion the protagonist pauses not in hesitation but in acknowledgement of survival beyond conflict. The journey that began with resistance and evolved into targeted revenge now settles into simple continuation. The environment remains unchanged, neither honoring nor condemning what has occurred, reinforcing the theme that endurance outlasts power. By the end of Part 8, the sequel closes its arc with restraint and maturity, refusing grand celebration and instead embracing quiet persistence, leaving the audience with the understanding that revenge may end conflict but survival never ends, and that the true identity of the central figure has always been not destroyer, not hero, but the embodiment of relentless endurance against systems that inevitably collapse under their own weight. The narrative settles deeper into its aftermath phase where the dust of destruction has cleared but the weight of endurance still lingers in every movement, transforming what could have been a triumphant ending into a meditation on survival beyond revenge. Early moments emphasize transition rather than celebration, the protagonist moving away from the collapsed stronghold not as a victor claiming territory but as a survivor reclaiming solitude, visually reinforced through vast open landscapes that dwarf the solitary figure, suggesting that nature remains indifferent to human conflict. Cinematography embraces natural light and long shadows, replacing the harsh industrial glare of previous chapters with warmer, subdued tones that signal closure without sentimentality. Sound design remains minimal and grounded, wind brushing across terrain, distant beer. DS returning to silence that once echoed with gunfire, grounding the atmosphere in realism rather than score-driven emotion. Pacing remains deliberate and steady, allowing the audience to feel time passing without urgency. The protagonist's physical exhaustion now visible without resistance, wounds tended with practical efficiency rather than dramatization, reinforcing that survival requires maintenance even after conflict has ended. Dialogue is absent, reinforcing the character's identity is a force defined by action rather than words. The midpoint of this chapter introduces subtle reminders that systems never fully disappear, scattered remnants of the defeated network appearing as small, disorganized threats attempting to reassert control, yet these encounters are brief and decisive, lacking the scale or coordination of earlier battles, reinforcing that centralized power has truly collapsed. Action sequences in this segment are concise and grounded, emphasizing precision rather than spectacle, and each confrontation feels like the closing of a door rather than the opening of a new one. Editing favors continuity and clarity, avoiding rapid cuts or dramatic angles, allowing physical effort and environment to dominate the frame. The emotional undercurrent of this chapter rests not in vengeance but in endurance redefined. The protagonist no longer driven by pursuit but by simple continuation, securing resources, navigating terrain, ensuring distance from the ruins of what has fallen. Visually the camera widens further as the journey extends into open space, symbolizing freedom not as celebration but as absence of constraint. The soundtrack remains almost entirely absent, allowing ambient realism to define tone, reinforcing that the narrative's climax has passed and what remains is life moving forward. Pacing remains calm and steady through the final stretch of this part, and as the sun lowers across the horizon the protagonist continues walking without hesitation or afflection, not seeking destination but simply moving, embodying the idea that survival is not an event but a state. By the end of Part 9 the sequel fully transitions from conflict to continuation, closing its revenge arc with quiet maturity, leaving the audience with a lasting image of endurance that persists long after structures fall and enemies fade, affirming that the true legacy of the journey lies not in destruction achieved but in the unbroken will to continue forward into whatever landscape remains. The narrative moves into its final contemplative chapter where motion itself becomes the closing statement, transforming the aftermath of destruction into a meditation on endurance without destination. Early moments emphasize distance from the ruins, the protagonist traveling further into open terrain where no structure remains to define threat or objective, visually reinforced through expansive panoramic shots that frame the solitary figure against endless horizon lines, symbolizing both isolation and freedom without celebration. Cinematography favors natural light and subtle color shifts, sunrise blending into daylight, daylight fading toward dusk, marking time not as countdown but as continuation. Sound design remains minimal and immersive, wind passing through grass, distant wildlife returning to spaces once occupied by violence, grounding the tone in realism rather than triumph. Pacing remains slow and deliberate, allowing the audience to absorb silence as resolution. The protagonist's movements steady but unhurried, wounds healed enough to walk yet still evident in posture and rhythm, reinforcing the physical cost carried forward. Dialogue remains entirely absent, reinforcing identity defined by action rather than reflection. Action sequences do not return in full scale, yet subtle reminders of survival appear in small tasks, gathering supplies, securing shelter, navigating terrain carefully, reinforcing that endurance never relaxes completely. The midpoint This chapter introduces a quiet encounter with remnants of civilization beyond conflict, abandoned vehicles, scattered belongings, traces of life interrupted, and these visuals expand the thematic scope, suggesting that war reshapes landscapes far beyond its focal point. The protagonist pauses briefly, not in regret or contemplation but in acknowledgement, before continuing forward, reinforcing emotional restraint. Editing choices favor extended takes and minimal interruption, allowing time to breathe naturally. The emotional tone settles into calm persistence rather than closure, the world no longer reacting to presence, neither hostile nor welcoming, simply existing alongside it. Visually, the camera lingers longer on horizon shots, suggesting that the journey continues beyond the frame, and as evening approaches, the protagonist establishes a simple camp, firelight flickering softly against open sky, not symbolic of victory but of survival's constancy. The soundtrack remains nearly silent, allowing natural ambience to define atmosphere, reinforcing authenticity. Pacing remains steady through the final stretch, no final confrontation, no return of threat, only continued movement into vast landscape, and as dawn breaks once more, the protagonist rises without hesitation and walks forward again, leaving the audience with a final understanding that the story was never solely about revenge or destruction but about endurance carried beyond collapse. By the end of Part 10, the sequel completes its arc not through dramatic closure but through quiet continuation, affirming that the true resolution lies in persistence without need for recognition, and that survival, once proven, becomes simply a way of being that extends beyond any single conflict or battlefield. The narrative continues beyond what most stories would consider an ending, extending the journey into a state where endurance exists without conflict and motion becomes the only remaining truth. Early moments emphasis. Routine forming out of solitude, the protagonist navigating terrain with familiarity rather than caution, visually reinforced through steady tracking shots across forests, rivers, and open fields that no longer carry threat but memory of what once was. Cinematography remains natural and grounded, sunlight filtering through trees, long shadows stretching across earth, reinforcing the passage of time without urgency. Sound design sustains minimal realism, wind through leaves, distant wildlife, crackling fire from a temporary camp, grounding the atmosphere in quiet continuity rather than suspense. Pacing remains slow and intentional, allowing each movement to feel lived rather than driven. The protagonist performs small survival tasks with practiced efficiency, sharpening tools, repairing equipment, gathering provisions, actions that once supported war now simply sustaining life, reinforcing that survival has transitioned from necessity under fire to identity beyond it. Dialogue remains entirely absent, emphasizing that words have never defined this journey. Action sequences do not return as battles but appear as brief physical challenges against environment, crossing unstable ground, navigating swift water, enduring weather shifts, reinforcing that endurance continues even without human opposition. Editing favors longer uninterrupted sequences, refusing to dramatize ordinary effort, allowing time to stretch naturally. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle reminder of a wider world, distant smoke rising from a far-off settlement, faint mechanical noise carried by wind, but instead of pursuing contact or confrontation, the protagonist chooses distance, reinforcing independence and detachment from systems that inevitably collapse. Visually, the landscape widens again, horizon lines dominating frame composition, symbolizing openness without destination. Emotional tone remains restrained and grounded, no flashbacks, no symbolic closure, only forward motion. As evening falls, the protagonist pauses briefly, not in contemplation but in practical rest, tending minor injuries, checking supplies, reinforcing realism. Soundscape softens further, emphasizing natural rhythm of night. The narrative avoids building toward any final revelation, instead embracing repetition as completion. The next morning brings renewed motion without hesitation, footsteps steady against earth, the camera lingering behind as if unwilling to break continuity. reinforcing that the journey extends beyond cinematic boundary, and as the chapter approaches its final moments, there is no shift in tone, no final adversary, no symbolic gesture, only continued walking into open terrain under a clear sky. By the end of Part 11, the story affirms its ultimate thesis that endurance does not culminate in celebration or resolution but in quiet persistence, leaving the audience with an image of strength defined not by destruction or revenge but by the unbroken will to continue moving forward. Long after conflict has faded into memory, the narrative extends even further beyond conventional closure, entering a space where movement itself becomes reflection and survival transforms into a quiet philosophy rather than a reaction to threat. Early moments in this chapter emphasize rhythm, the protagonist walking at a steady pace through changing landscapes that no longer represent danger or opportunity but simple passage, visually reinforced through long, uninterrupted shots of forests giving way to open plains, rivers flowing steadily, skies shifting in tone from morning gold to muted afternoon blue. Cinematography remains grounded and natural, avoiding dramatic framing and instead embracing realism that allows the audience to feel the weight of ongoing existence. Sound design continues its restrained approach, wind brushing across grass, boots against soil, distant wildlife moving through undergrowth, reinforcing a world that has returned to balance. Pacing remains slow and consistent, each step intentional yet unhurried. Injuries from past conflicts now mostly healed but still visible in posture and movement, reinforcing that history is carried physically even when conflict has ended. Dialogue remains absent, emphasizing that the character's identity was always shaped by action rather than speech. Action sequences no longer involve combat but endurance against elements, crossing unstable terrain, enduring rain, finding shelter beneath rock formations, reinforcing that survival is a constant condition rather than a temporary state. Editing choices favor extended takes and minimal transitions, allowing time to pass without compression, strengthening the sense that this journey continues beyond narrative structure. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a quiet encounter with traces of abandoned civilization, rusted vehicles, weathered structures, objects left behind by people who once occupied the land, and instead of examining them with nostalgia or raga, the protagonist moves past with indifference, reinforcing detachment from systems that collapse under their own weight. Visually, the camera lingers on horizon lines stretching infinitely forward, symbolizing continuity without destination. Emotional tone remains steady and unembellished. No flashbacks, no dramatic music swell, only presence. As evening approaches, the protagonist establishes a small fire, the flicker of light against vast darkness emphasizing scale rather than vulnerability. The soundtrack remains nearly silent, allowing natural ambience to define atmosphere. Pacing holds steady through the final stretch, and when morning arrives again, the protagonist rises without pause, continuing forward with the same measured rhythm that has defined the entire journey. The narrative reinforces its ultimate statement that survival is not about defeating enemies or reclaiming territory but about enduring without losing oneself, and by the end of Part 12 the story closes its extended arc not through revelation or emotional release but through continued motion into open landscape, affirming that endurance once proven becomes a permanent state, and that the true resolution of this saga lies not in revenge achieved but in the quiet certainty of unbroken persistence. The narrative continues its meditative extension where the absence of conflict becomes its own atmosphere, and this chapter deepens the idea that endurance no longer reacts to opposition but simply coexists with the world as it unfolds. Early moments emphasize subtle environmental change, the protagonist moving through higher elevation terrain where wind is sharper and air thinner, visually reinforced through sweeping mountain vistas and narrow passes carved by time rather than war. Cinematography remains restrained and natural, wide frames holding steady long enough for the viewer to feel scale without dramatic emphasis. Sound design continues in minimalist realism, boots crunching over gravel, distant echoes carried across valleys, reinforcing solitude without loneliness. Pacing remains slow and deliberate, each step taken with practiced rhythm that suggests neither urgency nor fatigue. Injuries from earlier battles now fully integrated into movement, no longer limiting but quietly present. Dialogue remains entirely absent, emphasizing identity expressed solely through motion. Action sequences have evolved into environmental endurance, crossing unstable ridges, navigating sudden weather shifts, building temporary shelter against cold winds, reinforcing that survival is a constant negotiation with nature rather than an event of violence. Editing choices avoid quick cuts, allowing natural duration to dominate and reinforcing the sense that time passes uninterrupted. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a quiet storm sequence, rain sweeping across landscape, visibility reduced, the protagonist continuing forward without hesitation, embodying resilience not through defiance but through GH adaptation. Visually, the storm softens edges of the world, creating a muted palette that contrasts earlier chapters filled with fire and steel, soundscape dominated by rainfall and wind, creating an immersive yet calm intensity. Once the storm clears, light breaks through clouds, not symbolically triumphant but naturally cyclical, reinforcing that the world operates independent of individual struggle. The protagonist pauses briefly at a high vantage point, surveying vast terrain stretching endlessly ahead, not contemplating destination but acknowledging openness. Emotional tone remains grounded and understated, no reflection on past conflict, no hint of returning danger, simply continued existence. As the chapter moves toward its conclusion, the landscape transitions once again, descending from mountains into open plains touched by early morning light, the protagonist walking steadily across the horizon line, camera lingering behind at a respectful distance, reinforcing that this journey has transcended narrative expectation, and by the end of part 13 the story reaffirms its central thesis that survival, once tested and proven, becomes indistinguishable from living itself, closing this segment not with dramatic punctuation but with the quiet assurance that endurance requires no witness, no validation, and no conclusion beyond continued forward motion into whatever terrain lies ahead. The narrative moves deeper into quiet permanence where even the rhythm of endurance feels natural rather than deliberate, and this chapter continues the journey without introducing conflict, urgency, or symbolic closure. Early moments emphasize stillness within motion, the protagonist walking across vast open plains where wind moves steadily through tall grass, visually reinforced through wide panoramic frames that place the solitary figure against an endless horizon. Cinematography remains grounded and observational, sunlight stretching long across earth without dramatic lighting shift. T.S. Reinforcing realism rather than spectacle, sound design sustains minimal ambience, wind brushing against fabric, boots pressing into soil, distant birds returning to the landscape, creating a sense of balance that contrasts sharply with earlier chaos. Pacing remains consistent and unhurried, steps measured not by destination but by rhythm, reinforcing the idea that survival has become identity rather than reaction. Dialogue is entirely absent, preserving the minimalist tone that defines the saga. Action sequences do not return in combative form but appear through environmental endurance, crossing shallow rivers, climbing small ridges, adjusting to subtle weather changes, reinforcing that the only opposition now is terrain itself. Editing choices allow extended duration, refusing quick transitions or dramatic emphasis, strengthening immersion in lived time. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a quiet dusk sequence where sky shifts gradually from gold to deep blue. The protagonist Saint preparing a simple camp beneath open sky, firelight flickering gently, not as a symbol of victory but as routine necessity. The soundtrack remains almost silent, natural ambience carrying emotional weight without manipulation. Visually, stars begin to appear overhead, emphasizing scale and solitude without loneliness. The protagonist rests briefly before dawn arrives again, rising without hesitation, continuing forward with the same steady movement that has defined every chapter beyond conflict. Emotional tone remains neutral and mature, no flashbacks, no reflective montage, no resurgence of threat, simply ongoing existence. As landscape transitions subtly from plains into sparse woodland, the camera maintains respectful distance, allowing the audience to observe rather than intrude, reinforcing that the story no longer demands attention but invites quiet witnessing. By the end of Part 14, the narrative reaffirms its ultimate message that endurance does not culminate in celebration or resolution but in sustained presence, closing this segment not with a dramatic beat but with the quiet continuation of footsteps moving steadily into open terrain, affirming that survival once earned becomes a way of being that requires no further proof, no further battle, and no final statement beyond continued forward motion. The narrative continues its quiet extension where movement has fully replaced conflict and endurance has dissolved into ordinary existence, and this chapter deepens the sense that nothing dramatic needs to occur for meaning to persist. Early moments emphasize subtle change in terrain, the protagonist moving from sparse woodland into a region marked by rolling hills and scattered rock formations, visually reinforced through wide steady frames that allow natural scale to dominate without stylized emphasis. Cinematography remains grounded and observational, sunlight filtering softly through passing clouds, shadows shifting slowly across open earth, reinforcing the passage of time without urgency. Sound design sustains its minimal realism, wind crossing tall grass, distant water flowing unseen, the quiet rhythm of boots against uneven ground, grounding atmosphere in presence rather than tension. Pacing remains steady and unhurried, steps consistent and measured, reinforcing that forward motion no longer requires motivation beyond continuity itself. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the identity of a story defined through action and silence rather than speech. Action sequences do not return as combat but manifest in small environmental challenges, navigating loose stone on steep inclines, adjusting path around fallen trees, repairing worn equipment during a brief pause, reinforcing that survival has become maintenance rather than confrontation. Editing avoids dramatic transitions, allowing scenes to breathe naturally in time to unfold without compression. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle seasonal shift, cooler air subtly ng over landscape, distant clouds hinting at incoming weather, yet no storm escalates into threat, reinforcing balance rather than disruption. The protagonist pauses briefly at a ridge overlooking an expansive valley, not in contemplation but in orientation, confirming direction before continuing. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, neither hopeful nor reflective, simply steady. As daylight fades gradually into evening, a small fire is lit once more, warmth offered not as symbol but as necessity. The soundtrack remains almost non-existent, natural ambience carrying quiet emotional weight. Night passes without disturbance, reinforcing absence of conflict, and at first light the protagonist resumes walking without hesitation, horizon stretching infinitely forward, the camera lingering behind in long unbroken movement that suggests the journey will continue beyond frame. By the end of Part 15, the narrative affirms once again that survival has transitioned fully into living, that endurance no longer needs opposition to define itself, and that the ultimate resolution of this saga lies not in a final act or confrontation but in the simple, unwavering act of continuing forward into landscape that neither remembers nor resists, completing this chapter not with dramatic closure but with quiet, uninterrupted motion that embodies permanence. The narrative advances into an even quieter dimension where endurance is no longer a conscious act but a natural rhythm embedded in every step, and this chapter deepens the atmosphere of calm persistence that has replaced conflict entirely. Early moments emphasize subtle transformation in the environment, the protagonist moving through mist-covered lowlands at dawn, soft light diffusing across open fields, visually reinforced through long, uninterrupted shots that allow fog to drift naturally through frame. Cinematography remains restrained and grounded, no dramatic color grading, only the gradual warming of light as morning unfolds. Sound design continues its minimalistic realism, distant water birds calling across wetlands, boots pressing gently into damp soil, fabric shifting against wind, creating immersion without tension. Pacing remains steady and deliberate, footsteps neither rushed nor slowed, reinforcing that movement is now identity rather than mission. Dialogue remains completely absent, sustaining the minimalist philosophy that defines the saga. Action sequences manifest only through environmental endurance, crossing shallow marshland carefully, reinforcing stability over speed, repairing a worn strap on equipment during a brief pause, reinforcing maintenance as survival. Editing choices favor extended takes, allowing time to stretch without compression, strengthening the sense that the journey extends beyond narrative constraint. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a quiet sunrise cresting over distant hills, golden light illuminating landscape without symbolism or revelation. The protagonist posse NG momentarily to adjust direction before continuing. Emotional tone remains balanced and understated, no flashbacks to conflict, no reminder of revenge, simply continuation. As terrain shifts gradually into sparse woodland once more, leaves rustling underfoot, branches brushing against frame, the camera maintains respectful distance, avoiding close dramatic angles and instead preserving observational calm. Evening approaches softly, clouds passing without storm, reinforcing equilibrium. A small camp is established again beneath open sky, firelight flickering gently against surrounding darkness. The soundtrack nearly silent, natural ambience defining atmosphere. Night passes without interruption, affirming that danger has fully receded from the narrative. And when morning arrives again, the protagonist rises and walks forward with the same measured rhythm that has carried every chapter beyond confrontation, horizon stretching open ahead without destination. By the end of part 16, the story reinforces its ultimate thesis that endurance, once tested and proven, becomes indistinguishable from living itself, closing this segment not with climax, not with revelation, but with the simple, unwavering act of continued movement into landscape that neither demands nor resists, affirming permanence through quiet, uninterrupted forward motion. The narrative continues its extended meditation on endurance where movement has fully replaced conflict and the world no longer reacts to the presence of the solitary figure walking across it. And this chapter deepens the sensation that survival has dissolved into simple being. Early moments emphasize subtle variation in landscape as the protagonist transitions from misty woodland into a wide stretch of open tundra brushed by cold wind, visually reinforced through expansive panoramic shots that place the lone traveler against an immense horizon where sky dominates more than earth. Cinematography remains restrained and natural, color tones muted and realistic, light shifting gradually without dramatic contrast. Sound design sustains immersive minimalism, wind sweeping steadily across terrain, boots pressing into gravel and frost, distant birds cutting through open air, grounding the experience in physical presence rather than tension. Pacing remains even and deliberate, steps measured by rhythm instead of urgency, reinforcing that forward motion has become instinct rather than mission. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the silent identity that has defined the saga from its beginning. Action sequences manifest only through interaction with environment, crossing uneven ground layered with loose stone, navigating a shallow ravine carved by seasonal water flow, reinforcing that endurance now responds only to terrain rather than opposition. Editing choices favor extended uninterrupted takes, refusing dramatic cuts or cinematic punctuation, allowing time to pass as it naturally would. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle shift in weather as clouds gather slowly overhead, light dimming slightly without escalating into storm, the protagonist adjusting clothing and continuing forward without pause, reinforcing adaptability is second nature. Visually the camera lingers longer on the vast emptiness ahead, suggesting continuity. The narrative carries forward into an even quieter register where repetition becomes texture and endurance exists without conscious acknowledgement, deepening the sense that life after conflict is not defined by absence of danger but by steady rhythm. Early moments in this chapter emphasize transition into a colder landscape, the protagonist moving across frost-touched ground under a pale morning sky, visually reinforced through wide static frames that allow open space to dominate composition. Cinematography remains grounded and unembellished, natural tones preserved without stylized contrast, reinforcing authenticity over spectacle. Sound design continues its restrained realism, wind gliding steadily across open terrain, boots crunching lightly over thin ice and stone, distant wildlife punctuating silence without urgency. Pacing remains consistent and unforced, steps measured by internal rhythm rather than external demand, reinforcing that forward motion is no longer driven by pursuit or escape. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the minimalist identity that defines the journey. Action sequences manifest only as environmental negotiation, crossing a partially frozen stream carefully, testing each step for stability, adjusting balance when surface shifts unexpectedly, reinforcing endurance as adaptability rather than confrontation. Editing choices allow time to stretch naturally, refusing compression or dramatic emphasis. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle shift in light as clouds part and pale sunlight spreads across landscape, revealing distant hills layered in soft haze. The protagonist pauses briefly, not in contemplation but to adjust path toward more stable ground. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no flashbacks to conflict, no symbolic framing of revenge fulfilled, simply continuation. As terrain gradually transitions into sparse woodland edged with frost, branches brushing softly against frame, camera maintaining respectful distance rather than intimate close-up, reinforcing observation over intrusion. Evening approaches without drama, temperature dropping slightly, breath visible in fading light, a small fire established again for warmth rather than symbolism, soundtrack nearly silent, natural ambience defining atmosphere. Night passes without interruption, underscoring permanence of calm, and at dawn the protagonist resumes walking with identical rhythm, horizon widening once more. By the end of part 18, the narrative reinforces its ultimate philosophy that survival has evolved beyond event and into state of being, that endurance no longer seeks purpose or destination, and that the journey continues not because it must but because movement itself has become identity. Closing this chapter without climax or revelation, affirming through steady forward motion that the saga's truest resolution lies in quiet, uninterrupted persistence across landscapes that neither challenge nor celebrate, only exist alongside the solitary figure moving through them. Beyond frame without framing it as destination, emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, neither triumphant nor reflective, simply steady. As evening descends gradually, the sky deepens into muted blues and grays. The protagonist establishes a simple resting point beside a rocky outcrop, firelight flickering briefly before fading into night. The soundtrack remains almost entirely natural, distant wind and subtle environmental movement replacing musical score, reinforcing authenticity. Night passes quietly without interruption, affirming the absence of returning conflict, and at dawn the figure rises again without hesitation. Street It's resuming with identical rhythm, horizon stretching endlessly forward. By the end of part 17, the narrative affirms once more that the journey has transcended revenge, conflict, and resolution, settling fully into quiet persistence, where endurance no longer needs challenge to define itself and survival no longer seeks validation. Closing this segment not with an event or turning point but with continued forward motion across open terrain, reinforcing that the ultimate statement of this saga is not destruction or triumph but the unwavering act of simply continuing onward. The narrative advances with the same quiet permanence that has replaced conflict entirely, yet this chapter deepens the atmosphere by emphasizing subtle shifts in landscape that suggest time moving forward even when story no longer demands movement. Early moments show the protagonist entering a stretch of rocky highland where terrain becomes uneven but not hostile, visually reinforced through wide steady frames that allow the horizon to stretch endlessly behind and ahead. cinematography remains natural and observational, color palette muted with soft grays and pale blues reflecting early morning light, sound design continues its restrained realism, wind moving across stone surfaces, boots scraping lightly against gravel, distant echoes carried across open ridges, reinforcing immersion without tension, pacing remains consistent and deliberate, footsteps measured not by urgency but by internal rhythm, reinforcing that motion is instinct rather than objective, dialogue remains completely absent, preserving the minimalist identity that has defined this journey beyond revenge and confrontation. Action sequences appear only as environmental endurance, navigating narrow paths carved into hillside, steadying balance over loose terrain, reinforcing adaptability rather than struggle. Editing avoids compression, allowing scenes to unfold in extended takes that emphasize real-time progression. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle weather shift as thin clouds drift across the sky, briefly dimming light before clearing again, the protagonist adjusting direction slightly to follow a natural path between elevated rock formations. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no reflection on past conflict, no suggestion of future threat, simply continuation. Visually, the camera lingers on the solitary figure silhouetted against vast sky, emphasizing scale without dramatization. As afternoon light softens into evening hues, the landscape transitions gradually into a lower valley touched by sparse vegetation, small streams reflecting fading sunlight, the protagonist pausing briefly to refill water and continue without hesitation, reinforcing practicality over symbolism. Soundscape remains nearly silent beyond environmental presence, night falls gently without disruption, a small camp established again beneath open sky, firelight subtle and unceremonious, reinforcing routine. Dawn arrives. Once more in movement resumes with the same unwavering cadence, horizon extending outward without visible boundary. By the end of part 19, the narrative affirms again that survival has become indistinguishable from living itself, that endurance no longer requires challenge to validate it, and that the journey continues not toward resolution but through existence itself. Closing this chapter not with a turning point but with steady forward motion into open terrain that neither remembers conflict nor anticipates it, reinforcing permanence through quiet, uninterrupted presence. The narrative continues in its fully meditative state where movement itself has replaced plot and the world exists without reacting to the solitary figure crossing it, and this chapter deepens the sense that endurance has dissolved into ordinary existence. Early moments emphasize gradual transition into a coastal landscape where wind carries the scent of salt and distant waves can be faintly heard long before the water becomes visible, visually reinforced through wide panoramic frames that capture cliffs meeting endless sea under a pale sky. Cinematography remains restrained and natural, colors soft and realistic, light shifting slowly without dramatic emphasis. Sound design expands slightly here, wind sweeping across rock faces, faint ocean currents rolling rhythmically, boots striking stone with steady cadence, reinforcing immersion without tension. Pacing remains unhurried and consistent, steps measured by instinct rather than destination, reinforcing that forward motion is no longer tied to conflict or purpose. Dialogue remains completely absent, preserving the identity of a story told through silence and physical presence rather than words. Action sequences exist only as environmental endurance, descending narrow rocky paths carefully, navigating unstable ground near cliff edges, reinforcing balance and awareness without urgency. Editing continues to favor extended uninterrupted takes, all owing time to pass naturally without compression or dramatic cues. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle visual shift as the protagonist reaches the shoreline, vast water stretching infinitely toward horizon, waves crashing steadily but not violently, symbolizing continuity rather than climax. The figure pauses briefly at the water's edge, not in contemplation or nostalgia but in acknowledgement of scale, before continuing to walk parallel to the coast. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no swelling music, no symbolic gesture of closure, simply presence against immensity. As daylight softens toward evening, the sky transitions gradually into muted tones of gold and blue, reflections shimmering across water surface without emphasis, the protagonist establishing a temporary resting point near sheltered rock, firelight small and practical against cool wind, the soundtrack nearly silent beyond natural ambience, reinforcing realism and permanence. Night passes quietly without interruption, waves maintaining steady rhythm, and at dawn movement resumes once more with identical pace, coastline stretching endlessly forward, camera lingering at a respectful distance, reinforcing that the journey continues beyond frame without destination or resolution. By the end of part 20, the narrative affirms fully that survival has transformed into simple being, that endurance once proven requires no further validation, and that the ultimate statement of this saga lies not in revenge, victory, or reflection, but in the unwavering act of continuing forward into landscapes vast and indifferent, closing this chapter without climax or revelation, only the quiet certainty of uninterrupted motion beside an endless sea that neither challenges nor celebrates, but simply exists. Across damp sand where waves erase footprints almost as quickly as they are made, visually reinforced through wide static shots that frame the solitary figure against endless water and sky, cinematography remains natural and unembellished, pale daylight diffused through thin clouds, reflections shimmering softly across the ocean surface without dramatic color shifts, sound design carries rhythmic continuity, waves rolling in steady cadence, wind brushing along the shoreline, boots pressing lightly into sand and stone, reinforcing immersion without tension. Pacing remains unhurried and consistent, steps measured not by objective but by rhythm, reinforcing that forward movement has become instinct rather than an intention. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the minimalist identity that defines the saga beyond conflict and revenge. Action sequences manifest only as environmental navigation, crossing scattered driftwood, stepping carefully across slick rock formations, reinforcing balance rather than struggle. Editing choices continue to favor extended uninterrupted takes, allowing time to pass naturally without compression, strengthening the sense that the journey extends beyond narrative structure. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle change in weather as low tide reveals a broader stretch of exposed shoreline, shallow pools reflecting sky like fragments of mirror, the protagonist adjusting direction slightly to follow firmer ground. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no flashback to battle, no symbolic reflection, simply continued existence. As afternoon light softens and horizon glows faintly with distant warmth, seabirds cross the frame without emphasis, reinforcing life continuing independently of the solitary traveler. The camera lingers at a distance, avoiding close-up intrusion, allowing presence rather than emotion to dominate the frame. Evening approaches gradually and a small shelter is arranged against coastal rock, firelight flickering briefly against wind-cooled air, soundtrack nearly silent beyond ocean rhythm. Night passes without disruption, reinforcing permanence of calm, and at first light movement resumes with identical cadence, waves continuing their steady repetition as the protagonist walks parallel to the vast sea. By the end of part 21, the narrative affirms again that survival has transcended event and become state of being, that endurance requires no adversary to justify itself, and that the journey continues not toward conclusion but through existence itself. Closing this chapter without climax or turning point, only the quiet certainty of footsteps along an endless shoreline beneath an open sky that neither resists nor rewards, but simply remains. The narrative moves further along the endless shoreline where repetition has become texture and endurance has fully merged with environment, and this chapter deepens the quiet permanence that defines life beyond conflict. Early moments emphasize subtle transformation in landscape as the coast transitions from open sand into jagged rock formations shaped by time and tide, visually reinforced through wide panoramic frames that capture waves breaking gently against stone while the solitary figure advances steadily across uneven ground. Cinematography remains natural and grounded, muted tones reflecting overcast sky without dramatic contrast, reinforcing realism rather than spectacle. Sound design carries steady immersion, ocean rhythm repeating with hypnotic consistency, wind brushing against cliffs, boots scraping lightly across stone, grounding the atmosphere in continuity rather than tension. Pacing remains deliberate and even, steps measured not by a Gen-Z but by rhythm that no longer requires purpose. Dialogue remains completely absent, preserving the silent identity that has defined this saga since its beginning. Action sequences manifest only through environmental endurance, climbing narrow coastal ridges carefully, stabilizing footing over loose rock, reinforcing adaptability rather than struggle. Editing choices avoid compression and dramatic cuts, allowing scenes to unfold in extended duration that emphasizes lived time rather than narrative momentum. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a quiet tide shift as water slowly rises, narrowing the path and requiring the protagonist to ascend toward higher ground, not as obstacle but as natural variation. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no reflection on past destruction, no anticipation of renewed conflict, simply adjustment and continuation. Visually, the camera lingers on the horizon where sea meets sky in soft gray-blue gradient, emphasizing scale without symbolism. Seabirds glide overhead without emphasis, reinforcing life independent of the traveler's presence. As evening descends gradually, clouds part slightly, allowing faint streaks of warm light to break through before fading into cool twilight. A temporary rest established beneath a sheltered overhang, firelight small and practical against coastal wind, soundtrack nearly silent beyond natural ambience. Night passes quietly without interruption, affirming absence of threat, and at dawn movement resumes once more with identical cadence, coastline stretching endlessly forward beyond frame. By the end of part 22, the narrative reinforces its ultimate thesis that survival has become indistinguishable from living itself, that endurance persists not because it must overcome but because it simply continues. Closing this chapter without climax or revelation, only the steady rhythm of footsteps against stone and sand beneath an open sky and endless sea that neither challenges nor rewards, but quieter. Why endures alongside the solitary figure moving through it. The narrative continues along the vast coastline where repetition has settled into permanence and even subtle environmental shifts feel less like change and more like quiet variation within stability. Early moments emphasize transition from rugged coastal rock into a broad stretch of wind-swept dunes where sand rises and falls in soft waves shaped by time rather than conflict, visually reinforced through wide static frames that allow the solitary figure to move steadily across layered ridgelines beneath an open sky washed in pale morning light. Cinematography remains grounded and unembellished, natural tones preserved without dramatic color shifts, reinforcing realism over symbolism. Sound design carries gentle continuity, wind sliding across dune surfaces, distant ocean rhythm faint but present, boots pressing softly into shifting sand, grounding atmosphere in physical presence rather than tension. Pacing remains steady and deliberate, steps measured by rhythm alone, reinforcing that movement no longer seeks destination. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the minimalist identity that has defined this extended journey beyond revenge and resolution. Action sequences manifest only through environmental endurance, climbing gradual inclines where sand gives way underfoot, adjusting balance as gusts of wind briefly intensify, reinforcing adaptability rather than struggle. Editing choices favor extended duration, allowing time to pass without compression or dramatic punctuation, strengthening the sense that this journey exists outside conventional narrative arcs. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle visual shift as clouds drift slowly overhead, softening light across the dunes and creating faint moving shadows that stretch and recede without urgency. The protagonist adjusts direction slightly toward firmer ground near sparse vegetation. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no reflectio. End on battles fought, no anticipation of conflict returning, simply continued presence within landscape. Visually, the camera lingers on the horizon where sand meets sky in seamless gradient, emphasizing scale without imposing meaning. Seabirds occasionally cross distant frame, reinforcing life independent of the traveler's path. As afternoon light gradually warms before fading into muted evening tones, the solitary figure descends from dunes toward a calm stretch of shoreline once again, tide low and water reflecting twilight sky without dramatization, a small resting point established behind a natural sand barrier, firelight faint and practical against cool air, soundtrack nearly silent beyond wind and distant surf, night passes without disturbance, reinforcing permanence of calm, and at first light the protagonist resumes walking with identical rhythm, dunes stretching endlessly ahead beneath a widening sky. By the end of part 23, the narrative affirms once more that survival has fully merged with existence, that endurance no longer depends on opposition to define itself, and that the journey continues not toward resolution but through steady, uninterrupted presence. Closing this chapter without climax, revelation, or symbolic farewell, only the quiet certainty of footsteps across shifting sand beneath a horizon that neither resists nor celebrates, but simply remains. The narrative continues its quiet expansion where landscape shifts gently without altering rhythm, and this chapter deepens the sense that existence now unfolds independent of conflict. Early moments emphasize transition from open dunes into a region of low coastal grasslands where wind moves steadily through tall blades that ripple like muted waves, visually reinforced through wide panoramic frames that hold long enough for the viewer to register subtle motion within stillness. Cinematography remains restrained and natural, soft daylight diffused through thin cloud cover without dramatic contrast, evoking realism rather than symbolism. Sound design sustains immersive minimalism, wind brushing through grass, distant surf barely audible, boots pressing lightly against uneven ground, grounding atmosphere in continuity rather than tension. Pacing remains even and unhurried, steps measured by instinct rather than objective, reinforcing that forward movement has become second nature. Dialogue remains entirely absent, preserving the silent identity that has defined the saga beyond vengeance and confrontation. Action sequences manifest only as environmental negotiation, crossing shallow marshy patches where footing must be tested carefully, adjusting balance against sudden gusts, reinforcing adaptability rather than struggle. Editing choices favor extended uninterrupted takes, allowing time to stretch naturally without compression, strengthening the sense that this journey continues beyond narrative expectation. The midpoint of this chapter introduces a subtle change in sky is scattered sunlight breaks through cloud layers, illuminating patches of grassland in gentle warmth before fading again, the protagonist adjusting direction slightly toward firmer terrain near low stone outcrops. Emotional tone remains neutral and grounded, no flashbacks to past destruction, no anticipation of returning threat, simply continuation within landscape that neither resists nor welcomes. Visually the camera lingers at a respectful distance, emphasizing scale and solitude without dramatization.